Good morning, good morning. I have to tell you, it's so exciting. I wasn't here last week because I was in Lake Havasu, and it just like every time I come, there's more people in the house. Isn't that fun? It's fun. I think we're all just getting to the point where we go, let's live life. Let's just live it all the way. So welcome. Welcome to the West Valley Center for Spiritual Living. My name is Sue Witter, and I am one of the practitioners, and I'm a ministerial intern. And we've been having good laughs over Karen. Karen has said, this is so good. I get to go to ministerial school again, and you do all the homework. Anyway, so welcome. We're so glad to have you here, and welcome to everyone who's joining us virtually. And I think we start out with the mission statement. Is it there? There we go. Woohoo! Vision statement. So if you'll read that with me. We live in a joy-filled community, honoring the many paths to God as we learn and live the science of mind principles. And Rod has a new hat. Yeah. Do we give him a little?
All righty.
And with that, we'll turn it back over to the Bradfords to bring it back down from all this joyful laughter.
After that excitement,
to get ready for a little
slow
quiet.
Down a little bit. I will make a quiet place within my heart, and I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord.
Be still, my soul, be still. Be still, my soul, be still. Be still and know.
I will make a quiet place within my mind, and I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord.
Be still, my soul, be still. Be still, my soul, be still. Be still and know.
I will make a quiet place within my life, and I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord. I will make a quiet place.
Be still and know. Be still and know. Bring it down, please. Thank you. Be still and know that there is one life, and that life is God, the infinite presence, existing in all things. The beauty and wonderment of this God is life, is perfect, whole, complete. It is love, peace, and joy, and inspiration that guides us in every moment. And every beautiful quality of God resides in each one of us, here in the center and beyond. That life of God is all there is, that lives in, through, and as each one of us, at every moment, at every time. And I speak these words knowing that today's service at West Valley Center for Spiritual Living is absolutely perfect. It is absolutely perfect, as God is right here in this house. And knowing this, I speak blessings upon each one of us here and each one watching from home or someplace else. And a blessing to the Bradfords, knowing their beautiful music touches our hearts. And it inspires us to be joyful and loving and giving. And for Reverend Karen, knowing her message is absolutely perfect, that she speaks the words of God that flow so effortlessly through her and as her. And for all those who are here and all those who are not, blessings to all. And I have such great gratitude knowing that this day is absolutely perfect. And I release my words into the law, knowing that it is already done, it is so. And together we say, and so it is. My reading today is from Creative Ideas by Ernest Holmes. And it's in the small little chapter called Enlarged Horizons. How true it is that we do see as though through a glass darkly, or only in part. But to all of us, there come fleeting moments when our inward vision is open. And we seem to look out upon a newer and broader horizon. We are all at a certain place in our growth, but there is a complete certainty before us. We shall continuously expand and experience more and more of that life which already is perfect. There is no reason why this awakening shall not come now, for we are not really waiting on God. God is waiting on us. All nature awaits our recognition, and even the divine spirit must await our cooperation with it. And then in his prayer, he stated, "Today my eyes are opened more widely, and I look out upon a broader horizon. Across all the experiences I may have had, which were limited or unpleasant, I now see the rosy hue of a new dawn. Letting go of that which is little, I now enter into a larger concept of life. Dropping all fear, I entertain faith, realizing that every form of uncertainty is seeing only in part. I open my spiritual eyes to that which is wholeness, which is greater and better. Today, my eyes are open to the breadth and the height and the depth of that life which is God, that life which is good, and that law which is perfect. Let's take a moment to contemplate those thoughts. And so it is.
Use me, oh God, I stand for you, and here I'll abide as you show me all that I must do. I used to think that God was the sun, God is the sun, but God's so much more than the earth or the stars or all of creation. God is creator, all in all, and needing us to shine its light as me, as you. Use me, oh God, I stand for you, and here I'll abide as you show me all that I must do. Command my hands, what must they do? Command my life, it's here for you. God is the love that heals all creation. God is creator, makes all things new, and God needs us to shine its light, and God needs us to shine its light as me, as you. So use me, oh God, I stand for you, and here I'll abide as you show me all that I must do.
There's a good old favorite. There's a song we don't have enough in this house. Good morning. And it does look like there's a lot of people out there. How about some house lights, please? Yeah, thank you. So good morning. Welcome to the West Valley Center for Spiritual Living. I'm Reverend Karen Rice, and I'm the spiritual leader of this community, and I'm really happy to be here. And you may notice Reverend Clyde is missing. He's traveling, and which he does periodically. And I think it's funny how the little things drop when Reverend Clyde isn't here. Isn't it cute how we really need him? You'll have to go home and make sure you communicate that later. We really miss him when he's not here. And yet, the show goes on. We know how to do that, too. Don't tell him that part. So there's a little extra excitement sort of underlying the morning, and I think that's because yesterday was Friday night and all day yesterday was the men's retreat, and I see several faces that I know were there. Stand up if you were at the men's retreat yesterday. Oh my goodness, thank you. So I understand Reverend Clyde did a really great job, and you guys brought with you, when you come back from an experience like that, you bring something back that all of us benefit from. So I sort of held the space in consciousness all day yesterday for the masculine side of our spiritual community, knowing that great things were unfolding, and how it thrills me to think of how that's going to benefit our future. The way we step forward. I'm pausing because I'm hearing a funny sound. Can you hear that too? I'm going to get the expert on it there to see if we can figure out where we're picking me up here. Because when I get excited, I'm going to get even louder. That might be strange. So the title of my message, I'm just going to talk and let them do their work. The title of my message today is Living by Inspiration. And it's so fitting because yesterday the men were together getting inspired and getting that breath of life invigorated in our spiritual consciousness of the community, that is. And I took the title of the message, Living by Inspiration, from a quotation I was reading that Ernest Holmes, the founder of this teaching, left us with a lot of great words, and this quote is fabulous. He said, "We must learn to live by inspiration. We must learn to live by inspiration." And then he goes on to say the whole purpose, I love it when he says stuff like that, the whole purpose, the whole point of this thing called life, the whole purpose is to make the intellect an instrument for the Spirit. To make our minds an instrument for God. So, oh my goodness, that song, Kathy, was a perfect choice. That you'd use me. Concerning the work of my hands, God, use me. Make me a vessel. Make me an instrument. Your reading and the prayer, even in the words of the prayer, we're all united in that theme because this is a theme upon which we are born and why we are meant to be in the world, so that we can find that our purpose is to make the intellect, our mind, be one with the mind of God. So what that means to me when Holmes says we must learn to live, is that we are always learning. That there's this process of life that is always expanding, always growing, always something more is always desiring to unfold. It's happening on the planet right now. We can see it and feel it and taste it and witness it in the interactions of everybody. I kind of feel bad for Will Smith, I have to confess. He will never be free of that. But the whole point then is that we are always, at least from a really accountable spiritual perspective, we are always looking for our own edge of growth. So you know what that means? That here's something beautiful about that statement. Your edge of growth means that you've walked all the way to the edge of everything that you know, everything that's familiar. And that next step puts you beyond that. And you are now in that space of not knowing, that space of growing, and that space of what's next, which is a really unique approach to life. And so we are always, as we're living our lives, finding our own edge of growth. And then what that validates is that whenever we get uncomfortable in anything that's going on in our lives or in the world, whenever we are uncomfortable, that's all that means. It's like, oh, this is new. And maybe there's a new way for me to have a perspective as to interpreting what I think is going on in my life or in the lives of my loved ones or in the world in general. So I love this topic today. I love this topic of inspiration because when life is inspiring and we recognize that, we are uplifted and we can do anything that is put before us better than we thought we could. I also love it because if you look at my favorite quote over here on the wall, it's the way we are big for God is to be blessed, inspired, and grateful. And what that means is inspiration is at the very heart of being big for God. The reason I love that so much is because I made it up. And it stuck. Is that great? So if you look at this idea of what is inspiration, the Latin root, many of you know this already because a lot of you aren't newbies. You've been around spiritual teachings for a while. And the Latin root of the word inspiration translates to mean to breathe or to blow into. And it gives me this beautiful image of God creating humanity, and then that kiss of life is where the breath of life is given to us. It's blown into us. And that Latin root is spirare, and it's the exact same root for the word spirit, which we also call God. So there's something very important in that movement of the breath, and I think that all spirituality is essentially becomes about breath work. It's about the way in which we find our grounding in spiritual practice and open ourselves to that breath of life, of truth, that inspiration that will then allow us to breathe in and to breathe out and to sense that connection, the way we are kept alive by the very intelligence that created us. It also sustains us. So we're looking to understand this morning, then, on that note, that the word inspiration, the idea of inspiration, quite literally means to be influenced by a divine source. I found this definition of inspiration that said it's the process of intake of atmospheric air. So it was kind of a scientific definition, talking about the exchange of gases. You know, we breathe in oxygen and we breathe out carbon dioxide, and the plants are grateful because they need that. And then the plants take that carbon dioxide and breathe in and breathe out, and we get the benefit of oxygen in that beautiful connectedness of something that was so intelligently planned that we all can thrive and live. So in that idea of a process of intake of an atmosphere, ooh, that feels so yummy to me. There is so much spiritual fodder right there in the middle of that. Because what that tells me is we are influenced by this divine source, that which created us. We are divinely guided if we so open to it. We are inspired. We are creatively fed and sourced and sustained and uplifted. And we become this instrument for that breath of life to move and to animate other life. Because there's a line in the Course in Miracles that says we're never healed alone. That there's something in that process of connection that we need, like breathing air. It's a big part of who we are. So now if I look at the process of the intake of that atmosphere, we take something from the atmosphere, and then we are influenced by that. So we want to choose what it is we're taking from the atmosphere of life that's around us at all times, and to be aware of it and to be involved in it. I think it's common that we associate inspiration with creativity. They seem to go nicely together. So you might say that the poet creates an atmosphere or a space in their own consciousness where they can write poetry. Right? The artist does that in whatever medium the artist is working with, and as does all the other creative possibilities. And in that way, the poet then is being fed from a source that's greater than they are. So it is not, this is interesting, because it is not an intellectual process. Holmes said the whole purpose is to make the intellect an instrument of the spirit. So it's actually the opposite of an intellectual process. It's like getting your thinking mind out of the way so that creativity can express through you. And that's what happens when we look at those highly creative, the arts. We allow the intellect, we train our intellect to be open to that extra creative, whatever that is. And by the way, I'm speaking this morning, it sounds as though the atmosphere is outside of you, but let us remember that it's always about the awakening of the inner wisdom that is not, it is out there because it's everywhere present, but it's always that inner movement of life, which is why the breath is so relevant in this conversation. So you could say that we've heard that when we read of some of the famous composers, we read things like, "Well, I didn't write that. It came through me. That something moved through my fingers to the piano keys." Do you write music, Rod? Where does it come from? Don't know. You can't say, right? And your fingers can strum that guitar pretty doggone good. I love hearing you play the guitar. So the composer will say, it came through my hands. It came through, I was writing the notes on a sheet of music. You know, I was filling in the space, creating this great piece of music. The poet, Ruth Stone, who left us a fabulous book of interesting poetry. She was, I'm not sure if she was a slave or she was a black woman, and she would be out picking cotton with the rest of her family. I think she might have been post-slavery, but nonetheless, they were out there picking cotton, and she said that she could hear a poem rustling in the bushes, and that it would get her attention, and she knew that the wind was about to blow it toward her, and it was her job to capture it. See, isn't that beautiful? It's a big difference than sitting down to write a poem, right? She would hear it coming before it came. Michelangelo, a great, we know he did these magnificent sculptures, and we also know that he would say things like the sculpture is already in the stone. I just chip away the stuff that shouldn't be there until I can see what's there trying to come out. And so he's famous for the great piece that we know as David. So there's something that the people that are comfortable in that creative realm, there's something that they can articulate to us and we can use that to help us understand our spirituality and that creative force that we're talking about this morning, that divine inspiration. Frank Lloyd Wright, who is, we know him well because we have streets here in the Phoenix area named after him. He lived here. He was inspired by his surroundings here in the desert, the beauty of that. And Frank Lloyd Wright claimed that he got his inspiration from nature. Listen to this profound quote. He said, "Nature is my manifestation of God. I go to nature every day for inspiration in a day's work, and I follow in building the principles which nature has used and demonstrated in its domain." So, much like Emerson and Thoreau, he's talking about the way he could see those divine patterns, the beauty of connection, and the way all of life has this, it's all based on the same principle, and in some ways, we can relate to it, though each of us will be inspired in slightly different ways. But what we know is that highly creative people recognize that they are inspired by something that is bigger than they could do on their own, right? That they open themselves to just have that experience. Did you ever try and inspire yourself when you weren't in the mood? It's just like sometimes you just can't get there, It's if I have a writing deadline and I sit down to usually it's Kay that nags me when I get behind in my writing, and she'll go, "Oh, I didn't notice till right now, but I need something by the end of the day," and I'll go, "Crap, I gotta sit down and write something beautiful, and I'm not feeling that today." What do you do? And so what happens is when we try and force creativity, it never works. It never comes out as good as those times where we can actually get ourselves out of the way and let something else move and express through us. So I used to tell Hugh on a Saturday morning where I have to get the talk in its completed form, and it's like sometimes it'll feel like a lot of pressure. If I'm not feeling it, I'll procrastinate, and I'll try and get back in my office to sit at the computer and write. And I've heard myself say on those days where I'm doing battle with the forcing part of it, I've said to Hugh, well, I guess I better get back to the dungeon now, because that's how it feels. It feels like a big burden. I can't do anything else the rest of the day till I get the Sunday message really all with a little sweet bow around it, and I'm happy with it. So you can't force creativity. You can't make something be inspired. It's actually the complete opposite of all of that. Frank Lloyd Wright's idea is beautiful. He fully expected to be influenced by something greater, and he felt that he knew from practice that nature would stimulate that inside of him, that something would spark inside of him if he sort of gave it to God in that way. So going back to that definition of inspiration, the process of intake of an atmosphere. Now, when I hear that, now that gives me something I can work with, something I can stand on, that's some firm ground to hunker down and really wrap my mind around what this all means. If I am uninspired, I am being influenced by an atmosphere that lacks inspiration, right? If I'm uninspired, if there's something else going on in my life that's distracting me, if there's anything we're carrying around, there's something happened to us and we haven't quite let it go yet, or we were disappointed by something, or all the things you bump into somebody or a situation that now you're thinking about, and it has your attention, then that's the atmosphere of your thought. And that can be challenging. There's no question it can be really challenging. But the really good news, this entire philosophy, in fact, says that the really good news of all of that is that we can change that we can redirect that we can use our spiritual skills to call in a different frame of mind, to redirect our thinking. So it's like I don't want to go to war with how hard it feels when I'm not feeling creative. I want to do the opposite of that. I want to not be at war. Otherwise, that's the atmosphere I'm creating in my office, where I really want to create something beautiful and useful. But I have the power to change that. I want to breathe in new ideas. I want to tap into those higher thoughts that are not just my thoughts, but I want to align myself, as Ernest Holmes would say, to the mind of God. When you study the breath, when you study breathing from a biological point of view, when we look at what is that process in the human body of breathing in and breathing out, how do they treat breathing disorders? When you look at all of those things, you begin to see something interesting. That there is, it's that the in-breath, the way we feel like we can't wait for that next big deep inhale, the in-breath does not matter in that process of movement as much as the out-breath matters. And if you've ever been, I've visited enough people in the hospital to see people taking that, especially after surgery, where they want your lungs to start working well again. They give you this little breathing apparatus. It's just like a little plastic box, have you seen it? Or have you had to blow in one before? And then it has a little thing and you blow really hard in it, and then it has this little ball in it that rises depending on how hard you're able to, how much breath you can use, and then they give you a goal. Now we want you to blow really hard and get that ball all the way up here to this mark, right? And it's so important to understand that it is that out breath. We're not practicing taking the inhale. They're trying to make us practice the exhale because the better we exhale and can empty those lungs of that old, dead, stale air, then we are making space for that fresh, nourishing new air and the ability of our lungs to expand even more and function in a better way, in a higher way, so that we can benefit from those breathing exercises. So whenever I sit to meditate, the first thing I do is I take a nice, deep, cleansing breath. By the way, I'm an old midwife. Did you remember that? I'm an old midwife, and so I taught childbirth classes for 100 years. And so I use that term, a nice, deep, cleansing breath, because in childbirth, that's the way you teach women to relax. We didn't call it meditation. It was awfully similar, and it helped me bring it into spiritual practice. But you take a nice, deep, cleansing breath, but then what I do is, if you ever watch me, I do it all the time when I'm up here before I speak. I'll blow it out slow and steady for as long as I can. Exhale, 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 exhale. And then there's a very natural and instinctive inhale that follows that. So there's a little trick you can use. So we want to do that. Athletes know this stuff. Athletes understand. I don't relate to athletes personally, but athletes, I've read that athletes understand all this stuff. That there is a way in which we can take our knowledge of how breath fuels the body, and we can train ourselves to breathe to where an athlete can become more efficient at whatever their sport is. That there's a really important relationship between the in-breath and the out-breath, and in fact, they call it the art of breath coordination. The art of breath coordination, the way there's the balance between the in-breath and the out-breath. So in the 1960s, they were training the Olympic runners in the United States. The trainers in the United States were training the Olympic runners to pay attention to their breath. And what they were teaching them was that when they get in that starting line, they're ready to take off. I don't know, I just see the runners, the track runners, like where they have their foot in something, and then they're all ready to go. And you can just imagine how your heart would be thumping. Even the divers, I look at the divers. Probably it'd be better to talk about the divers, but I didn't write that. I'm going to talk about the runners. And they tell the runners to focus on staying relaxed. So they're down there ready. They're waiting for the starter's pistol to fire. And they teach them to relax and to do deep breathing. And their goal is to exhale when they hear the gun. On that takeoff, they're trained to start with that exhale, because then the first breath they take is going to be rich and full, and it's going to provide them with the energy they need to really excel at what they're doing. The art of breath coordination. They're learning to harness the power of a full exhale. This is really good advice for each and every one of us. Not in terms of pushing yourself physically like in a sport. I know we have runners. I don't know why you run, but I know all of my kids have done marathons and triathlons, and I don't know why, but I didn't give them that example, clearly. But what we do know is that, do you know that 18% of Americans suffer from panic attacks now? And I'll bet that's even higher now, right now, in the world we're living in right now, post-pandemic or kind of post-pandemic. I'll bet it's even higher than that. That's an old statistic. But 18% of us. So if you're one of the 18%, don't be hard on yourself. But know that everything about our spiritual practice, especially the breath, the reason we have panic attacks is because we quit breathing properly. When you're stressed, you start breathing in that high chest, shallow breathing, and that's not good for you. And that's why probably running is good for you, because it makes you breathe at a natural workout kind of pace that they say is good for, I don't know. They say it's good for us. So if we carry that into our spiritual practice, not the running, but the breath coordination, we can see that it really fits with everything ministers all over the world, spiritual leaders have been telling people for hundreds and thousands of years, is you have to have a sitting practice. Each and every one of us needs to find a way to sit still for a while. Every day we should sit still, even if you can only do it for 5 minutes, and it doesn't have to be any kind of a formal meditation. But if you have a formal meditation practice, even better. Even better. So we teach Vipassana, the new foundation class, which, by the way, they are really great. I'm having such a good time in that class. It's like, I thought this would be fun for me because I feel like a new person, or like I'm becoming a new person. But man, we need each other. You know, it's beautiful to see how that works, that the teacher also gets to grow and learn and change and stuff. So we teach Vipassana. And Vipassana is a Buddhist, possibly Hindu before Buddhism, but it's a practice of meditating that does not have a strong emphasis on body posture and how you sit, or mudras, or anything that's a little too unusual for the beginner student. It's what I love about Vipassana, but it's about paying attention to your breath. It's about sitting still and relaxing. Deep inhale, slow, relaxed exhale, little pause possibly, next inhale, and then you just notice where your thoughts go. Who here has realized they're hungry since I've been up here? It's like, only 2 of you? Oh, there are liars over here. Yeah, that's more like it, thank you. You know, who here is you've thought about what you're going to do next? I mean, I have, and I'm speaking. So you notice how busy your mind is. And then instead of becoming disheartened by that, it's like you recognize, like, whoa, there's a lot going on in there, you know? And then you bring your attention back to the breath. Oh, I just noticed I had that thought. Nice deep inhale, slow relaxed exhale. I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. And you just continue that breath coordination, as it is so cleverly referred to here. So we're teaching our mind, as Holmes said in that opening quote, we're teaching our mind sort of to just be obedient to what happens when we calm ourselves down, when we pay attention to that divine inspiration, the way that the breath of God is always breathing us. You don't have to tell yourself to breathe. You don't have to tell myself to slow down sometimes, but we know how to do that intuitively. There's something about that, and I love that, because what the lesson then really becomes is letting go and letting God. Or I love this even better than let go and let God. Let go and then let come. Let go and then let that divine inspiration wash over you. Let that poem rustle in the bushes near you and move through you. Let that piece of art just start to come in your mind, and you can't wait to grab some colors to throw together. Whatever it is, a project. I mean, your chicken coop is a gorgeous demonstration of what the creative mind can do. He made I already brag, he did a chicken coop. You have to go to the Bradford sometime. They let you hold the chickens on your lap. And how are the baby ducks? Oh, ooh, are a lot of work? Are they work? Oh, okay. Show me, I heard that. Show me how big they are now. Oh, they got very big. They were just out of the egg when I saw them. Yeah, it's a real adventure to go there. So there's a piece of life in that way that nature works that allows us to see that there are times and opportunities to let go and let that inspiration come. Let God in. Isn't it helpful to know what inspires you? It's helpful to know that. Right? We're not all musicians, and we're not all creative. We are all creative, but we may not have an art. Sometimes we think that means you have to have music or art or something. But no, you don't, right? We are creative in our kitchens. We are creative with our needlework. We are creative with our tools. And we are creative in the way we decorate things, the way we arrange our furniture, and it's endless. We're always creating something, so we might as well choose to create something of value. So know what inspires you, what brings you joy, what makes you feel alive. Somebody shout out something that makes you feel alive. Books? Oh, yeah, I agree with that. Animals, my dog, somebody said. What else? Music. Oh, yes. Although, when you're grieving, music is edgy. Music has not been my friend lately. But yeah, just, there are things, Holmes would say it this way. Ernest Holmes used to say that when you listen to a piece of music and it does something to you, you can feel it in your being, or you see a piece of art, and you feel something, you don't want to look away, you want to study it because it just touches something in you. Ernest Holmes said that's because when that happens, you have touched the space in consciousness in which the artist touched it or the musician created it. Isn't that beautiful? That makes such sense to me. So it helps to know what inspires you. That's a really good starting place. My honey, my beloved, loved baseball. And I'm thinking of baseball because it's opening day this week. Woo, that man loved baseball. He often said the best part of moving to Arizona was that we lived down the street from the Dodgers spring training camp, or their field. So he always went to the Dodger games, and he recorded the World Series. The Dodgers, was that 2020 or 21? I can't remember. He recorded the game. He probably recorded all the games, I don't know. But he got that winning game in the World Series. And I want to tell you something. He watched that over and over and over. When he was just sitting in his recliner in the corner in the living room, that brought him joy. And he would watch that game again. Of course, his favorite team kept winning, It had to be pretty inspiring. But I was thinking about the way that a lot of sports, not just baseball, but you can see it in the way fans come together and do funny things and really are uplifted by the joy and the pleasure of being involved in a sport that pleases them. So baseball is a good example of how our enthusiasm for something can be uplifting and inspiring to us. So know what you love. Not too long ago, there was a cartoon in the newspaper. It was one of those Charlie Brown ones. And Charlie Brown they're in the baseball field, and Charlie Brown's on the pitcher's mound, and he's the manager, and Lucy comes in from the outfield. And she comes up to him, and she's got her head down, and she's looking sort of forlorn. And she says to Charlie Brown, sort of humbly, "I'm sorry that I missed that easy fly. I thought I had it. But then suddenly I remembered all the other times I missed it when I thought I had it." And then she turns around and she's walking away, and in the last frame of the cartoon, she says, "I guess the past got in my eyes." Isn't that good? I think I let the past get in my way. So notice that. Notice that our past foibles and mistakes or disappointments. Notice what you carry around, because that indeed is a part of the atmosphere of thought that you are living in your own life, and you can alter that. We want to change that, because carrying around the heavy things from our past limit our inspiration. So let's create anew. Let's open ourselves to stand in this open space of what can be. I stumbled on I found this great quote, and I went, who is that? It's a man named Ned Rorem. And Ned Rorem is an American composer. He's 98 years old right now. But he was pretty well known and did a lot of classical stuff. And I bet, is that a familiar name in your world? No? Okay, all right. Because Sue's husband was in the San Francisco Symphony, and I love it all. I love everything about it. I love. It's exciting to know people that have done fun things. Here's what Ned Rorem said about inspiration. Inspiration could be called inhaling the memory of an act never experienced. Think about it. Inspiration could be called inhaling a memory of something that hasn't unfolded yet. See, that's what we teach here. See it as already done. That's what the great master Jesus meant when he said, it's done unto you as you believe. He says inspiration, that uplifting, that standing in that space of being open to what's possible, gives it the space to be possible. So we bring things into existence in the way that we use our minds. So let's use them intelligently. Let's be willing to open ourselves to the grace of God so that we can have that experience of knowing firsthand that divine inspiration. That's what I call being caught on fire by the Holy Spirit. I love that idea. Dr. Holmes, this is where I'll conclude this morning. Dr. Holmes said that it is impossible for the finite mind to comprehend the infinite. It's so hard to comprehend what God is. So instead, we make images of what God must look like, and it must be kind of like us, kind of human-like. And we so take away all the possibility for inspiration from a higher power when we do that. And then he went on to say, it's impossible except in moments of real inspiration. So let's be inspired. Let's be open to what's possible. Let's let go and let that inspiration come into our lives and bless us with new possibilities. Let God inspire you this week. So take a breath. We're going to anchor these ideas in the words of prayer. Nice, hearty exhale. Making space for that which hasn't lived yet to come. God, right here, right where we are, in this very room, that divine inspiration, fully orbed, fully present, absolutely here and unlimited, the fullness of the grace of God. I feel the love of God within me, and I know it is that. It is that inspiration. It is that breath of life that has brought us into being, that calls us day after day into a higher and a broader experience of life itself. I feel that love of God, and I know it to be that activity that is purely divine, on purpose. For we are created in the image and the likeness of that great Creator, and therefore we are in charge of creating the good in our very own lives. The good that is everywhere present at all times. I feel that love, and I know it is that essence of the love of God that sustains us, that provides for us, and that allows that golden light of truth within us to expand. So there is this inner divine illumination that is activated by the very words of this prayer, and it is growing, it is expanding. It is allowing us to see from a whole new perspective. We are seeing with the eyes of God. We realize with real eyes. We know that there is a truth that has been bestowed upon us and within us. and that our awareness, our attention to the spiritual details of our very own lives begins this mighty process of healing everything that may appear to be out of order. So for a while, we set aside our ideas, our judgments, our opinions. We allow ourselves to rise as we are filled with that breath of life. We are inspired in that divine way to look out upon the world and to see the blessings. We do not inhibit the flow of grace in our lives, for we know that that is an extension. Our ability to recognize grace is the way it is extended to other living creatures on this planet. So we say yes to life. We say yes to God. We open our hands and allow Spirit itself to show us the work that is to be done by ourselves. We become vessels for good, and we allow Spirit to just fill us right now. So in this very moment, no matter where we are, no matter what time it is that we are listening to these words, we are filled, we are uplifted, and we become the very servants of God to do good work in this world. So we are healed. We are healed from the inside out. We are healed and we are holy. We are not broken. And what that means is that there is a new light coming to this world. And in part, it will shine through us so that others can find their way as well. So where there is brokenness in relationships, we know there too is God, and therefore something is being mended and pulled together in a beautiful and holy way. Where there is any appearance of something in our lives that isn't functioning well, we know that there too is the full intelligence of life supporting us, and that there is indeed healing as the wholeness and the perfection continues to be revealed. So I say thank you, God. I say thank you, God. Thank you, life. Thank you, infinite Spirit. We receive these blessings this day. We allow them to be, and we are grateful. And in that perfect spirit of gratitude, I simply release the words of this prayer into the law, knowing it is already done, and together we say, and so it is. Amen.
Yes, indeed, and we are grateful. Grateful for the Bradfords and their music, the fabulous talk. Thank you so much. It's always funny, when I'm away for a week, when I come back, I always enjoy the talk more, even though I listened to the one last week. The first one back is always like, oh, so glad to be home. So anyway, it is now time for us to honor the process of giving and receiving and the abundance in our life and the world around us. So we have a giving affirmation. If you will repeat that with me, I live in a consciousness of good. Divine love blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God. And I will say, I go to different churches when I speak. We have one thing in our affirmation that most don't. It says, I am grateful for all that I am. And that is not said in most churches that I go to that use that affirmation. I'm grateful for all that I am first. So, so thank you very much. It's a reminder, the boxes for giving are back in the corner on the wall or out on home space in the lobby. So please drop your contribution there. And if you're interested, look at the online giving or maybe through bank. I use mine through my automatic banking. But thank you for all that you give. It keeps us in a state of joy here. So take it away, Bradfords.
Please rise for our last song. Oh, it feels so good to be alive. Sing that. Oh, it feels so good to be alive. I ain't thinking about my problems. I'm living now. I'm living now. And I ain't gonna worry about the future. I'm living now. I'm living now. So put your hands up if you feel like having a good time. Put your hands up if you're sharing love with all. Raise your cup if you're hopeful for tomorrow. Put your hands up if you're ready to have some fun. Now sing it. Oh, it feels so good to be alive. It feels so good to be alive. Feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life, live in the moment. Feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life, live in the moment. Feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life, live in the moment. Feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life, live. It feels so good to be alive. It feels so good to be alive. One more time. It feels so good to be alive.
Thank you, Bradfords. Thank you, Bradfords. You know, I have to tell you something. It's starting to feel good to be alive again in my life. Yeah. Thank you. I can really feel it. It's good. All right, so we're going to close with an affirmation. Repeat after me. Something wonderful is happening through me right now. It is this thing called life. Life is my inspiration. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Amen. And so it is. Thanks for being here, everybody. Remember, love often and pray much.